There we go. I'm going to call this meeting to order. I'm going to restatement about the fact that we're being recorded. Please be advised that tonight's meeting is being recorded and live streamed on a publicly accessible website. New business items. Mayor's list. I have nothing. Council's additions. Any council additions? CAO additions?
Yes, Mayor. Addition for Northern BC Tourism Association CEO Clint Fraser is attending town.
Very well. Can I get a motion to adopt the agenda, please? Moved by Councillor Andrews, seconded by Councillor Gerwing. All those in favor? Carried. Adoption of the minutes of Special Regional Council Special Regional Council of January 13th, 2020, the Special Regional Council of January 22nd, 2020, Special Regional Council January 24th, 2020, Special Regional Council January 27th, 2020, the Regional Council meeting of January 27th, 2020, and the Special Regional Council of February 3rd, 2020, and the Regional Council. Nope, that's it. Okay. Can I get a motion to adopt those? Moved by Councillor Doan, seconded by Councillor Andrews. All those in favor? Carried. Proclamations. Heritage Week, February 17th to 23rd. So we have a proclamation, and I will read the proclamation. The Northern Proclamation of Heritage Week. Whereas the Northern Rockies Region Municipality celebrates its rich history that is manifest in its museum, public library, historic sites, cultural landscapes, and whereas these assets are a source of invaluable information about the history of our community, and stories about them provide a vital legacy to guide and nurture future generations. And whereas stories about the past strengthen our community's unique identity and foster a sense of place. And whereas Heritage Week begins on National Heritage Day, the third Monday of February. And whereas communities throughout BC mark Heritage Week to celebrate their unique history and heritage. And whereas the Northern Rockies Region Municipality values and wishes to conserve their rich and diverse heritage resources. And now, therefore, I, Gary Foster, Mayor of the Northern Rockies Region Municipality, do hereby proclaim the week of February 17th to February 23rd, 2020 as Heritage Week in the Northern Rockies Regional Municipality. Let me sign this for you. Sir. 2, 3. Petitions, delegations. Christy Lear, wheelchair accessible parking. Ms. Lear, take it away.
All right. I think everybody in here knows me, but I'm still going to state what's going on with my life. 2 years ago, I was in a car accident and broke my neck and ended up in this wheelchair. I'm in front of you today. In the last 2 years, I've struggled really, really hard to get back to my life. Me and many other people have connected through social media, rehab centers I've been to, friends I meet along the way, people in wheelchairs I say hi to have conversations. What's come out is we've all come together in this group and a movement I've labeled as Step Up. Okay, so Step Up started on Facebook and it gained a lot of attention really fast. I use this now to gain awareness for persons with disabilities in general. And what's happened so far is I have a van that I drive around and I can't get into my life at all because I can't get out of my van. Everywhere I go, I'm blocked, or if I go into a grocery store, I'm late for my next place because I'm stuck. There's many people all over that have the same problem. So I've brought it to the attention of our MLAs, and Mike Bernier and Dan Davies are going to be heading this up for us. And I hope that you guys can help us too. In the northern communities, my plan is to bring awareness by placing these parking spaces in town hall. I know town hall is something a municipality owns, and we can grant that as long as we understand it's going to help. I'm hoping I can reach out to you guys as mayor and council to help me get this first step on the way, because I do have them working down in Victoria already on a members bill, and they're bringing this to legislation so we can change it in the local government. If we get the changes brought properly, we need 4 places. I've connected them today, and I had a little meeting with S Flag Group, Spark BC, people in representing Ontario, Nova Scotia, and Manitoba. What we're doing is we have enough of an agreement now to bring this member bill forward. I'm hoping we can display it. That's where I need your guys' help. So accessible parking phase 1 is what I've brought to your attention here today. What we're going to be looking at is raising awareness and using our local municipalities to do this. So the Northern Rockies as a group can come together and help make Canada more accessible by acting out with me. I've got signatures from locals started. I'm going to bring them to you guys once I've got them collected at the end of the week, so you can see the amount of support the town has for this. It's only Fort Nelson targeted so far. I want to explain the new accessible parking space in your town hall, and I believe it will be zero cost to the community. I want to make sure that I'm right. You guys do paint every year? Yeah? Mostly? Okay. Could we paint this year is my next question, and I'll leave that sitting with you now, okay? I'm not sure what your cost or budgets are, but we will need a little bit of paint to make this work. Other than that, I have a sign that's been donated and generated by Taryn Dolan at Logo Tech here in Fort Nelson. The first one's been made. I have it out in my van right now. The post and installation of this is going to come at a donation from a local business in town. Nobody stepped up yet, but I want to make sure you guys are okay with it before I go offering this movement. The second thing I want to bring up to you guys is I want to show you these options I have for these parking spaces. So option 1 is 2 separate areas, one for accessible and one for wheelchair accessible. Each area will provide space for 2 vehicles to have accessibility at the same time, giving an area in between for free parking space users to access only. Basically, I would like to zero out the fact that anybody else can come park around these vehicles that have adaptive aids and need the accessibility. I want to bring your attention to the purple logo, which I'm sure is new to Mayor and Council. The wheelchair accessible one you see all over town, right? This accessible logo in the accessible in general is hoping to bring awareness to people that aren't living in wheelchairs. When you're living in a wheelchair, you're not really disabled. You're just living in a wheelchair. Until you get out of the wheelchair, that's when your disability shows. This step is missing in society majorly, and I feel a lot of people are declining their recovery because of it. This is what's gotten a lot of attention to this already. Parking space parameter 2 is an option with one designated area with 2 parking stalls. One with accessibility to deploy the ramp for a wheelchair and access to the ramp, and the other stall next to it is going to be accessibility to exit a vehicle safely with an adaptive aid or limited mobility. I have actual visual, and it's tiny on here, of what that would look like. I'm so sorry this is small, Mayor and Council. Can you see that? Okay, basically you've taken your 2 spots, and this is for a smaller parking area like your town hall. The other one I displayed is for a larger shopping center or somewhere where, let's say, 1,000+ people are entering and leaving during the day. Why should Fort Nelson do this? To display the need for separation for wheelchair access in accessible spaces, and bring awareness across BC through our northern communities in a joint effort, and work together in processing municipal bylaws through Mayor and Council in a joint effort to regulate BC parking legislation, and to generate an accessible act for British Columbia. Do you guys have any legislation in Fort Nelson, any bylaws for your accessible parking?
I think they were probably simply the provincial bylaws or the provincial regulations, I believe, or
It'll be in our zoning bylaw, but the regulations that we have for the size and stuff are dictated by are dictated by provincial regulation. No.
Okay. They're looking at that right now in Victoria. I guess if it's based by the provincial legislation, and they're looking to bring this in there this week. I'm hoping you guys can help me display it and get a little bit more of a collective voice for that here in your town parking lot. I would like us to be a leader for our country. Okay, currently in Canada, only 2 provinces have an actual Accessibility Act, and only 1 has a law. Okay, so do you guys know which ones?
I'm going to go with Quebec and New Brunswick.
I'm so glad you took a stab. Yes, but no. What do we have? We have Nova Scotia
So close.
and we have Ontario
Oh, so
with an Accessible Act. Manitoba only has a law for parking. Okay? We need 4 out of 10 provinces to step up together, and we can make a step in the right direction to make an accessible Canada. This legislation is huge, and I hope that you guys are seeing the interest in that I have in it. Our town deserves to be leaders, and I live here, and this is what I'm doing, and I really hope you guys can please support me. I'm hoping it's not going to cost a lot of money towards the town at 0. I'm thinking it's only going to be some paint, but I've been wrong before. This is the sign I would like for you guys to put up, okay? The purple in the logo, and the logo itself was designed by a local lady named Melissa Langstaff. So I had her over painting my new home with my children, which we're making accessible for us to live in. And she had mentioned to me she wanted to help with this, and I needed this logo. The color purple represents diversity. It represents strengths. It represents recovery. And there's so many other wonderful words if you Google the word purple. This is a difference to this logo than the wheelchair accessible one or handicap we have now, is there's a gear behind this person, and there's limbs that have been broken, but they've been fixed so they can get up and get on with their life. This symbol is also being used in a little bit of a bigger effort across Canada, which is to bring awareness for persons with disabilities. So the color purple is going to be worn on December 3rd, 2020, all across Canada to bring awareness for persons with disabilities. And this logo is going to be attached to that t-shirt as well. We're working at funding by SCIBC, which is Spinal Cord Injury Group of British Columbia, Spark BC. They're going to get some money together so that we can create these t-shirts and offer them to Canada. And you don't have to buy the shirt to support. You can wear purple any day you want. I love purple myself. It's a really great color. The other one I have to show you quickly is my last fact. In Canada, more than 6 million people are living with disabilities. There's a visual for you. 1 out of 5. In this room, how many people are in this room? 1 out of 5 have been affected by a disability, whether you've been living in it or, like my parents have supported me in, somebody in your family has it, right? You don't have to have the disability to be affected by it. It's all around us. Our Facebook page, Step Up, is where this starts. And I'd like to leave this open to you guys now. If you have any questions, I'm not sure how long I've taken, but that's pretty much all I wanted to reach out to you guys. I hope that I could get back to you once the members bill gets passed in Victoria this week and tell you that that was a great go. Not any pressure on you, but it's kind of waiting on if you guys are going to let me put this spot in your town hall. And
No.
I'm going to Dawson Creek next on the 24th to ask the same thing. Just say it. Okay?
No pressure.
No pressure.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for bringing this issue forward. It's very important, and I know that council as a whole has looked at ways to make our council more accessible, our town more accessible, and I really appreciate you bringing this forward to us.
Thank you, Mayor.
Any other comments? Councillor Andrews.
So, what steps do we got to take to get the sign up?
Is there a time constraint on this sign?
We're looking. April is when the legislation in Victoria is closed. I'm supposed to be down there meeting with MLAs and bringing this forward for them to vote and push it. So I have till April.
Very well. I think, Councillor Andrews, maybe what we should do is we should be looking for a report from our administration on this so that we can do it right and do it well. So if there's no more Is there another question?
No,
Councilor Gurley?
I'll keep going and I'll just chime in.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that we send this over to administration for, to get a report back to us. Councilor Gurley?
So I just wanted to add that if we're getting a report, in addition to having it at the town hall, could the report also include investigating the possibilities of having it at the rec center? So, and I don't know any other properties that the municipality owns.
Very well. Can I get a motion for that then, please? Moved by Councilor Gerwing, seconded by Councilor Roper. Did we get a report from administration on this? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you very much, Ms. Lear.
Thanks for your time. Thank you.
Very well. Jason White. Carbon tax refund petition. Mr. White, do you come to the end of the table and just state your name for us?
This is probably going to be the shortest delegation you're going to see.
That's okay. We do short ones, we do long ones. It's just whatever you feel.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mayor and Council, I present to you a petition for carbon tax refund for the residents of the Northern Rockies Region municipality. Basically, the premise of this is a lot of peers and people in town complaining about the carbon tax. And then I just started thinking about it, and we've had it for so long. Like, it started in 2008. It was very minor, and it just gradually got bigger and bigger and bigger. And now, as pretty much everybody in town notices, that we're paying quite a bit in carbon tax versus the fuel we're using. We don't really have any other viable options up here. I can't jump on a bus, so on and so forth. I need to use natural gas to heat my home. It's just a fact of life up here. And we are paying a disproportionately larger amount of carbon tax compared to the rest of the province. So, for obvious reasons, our geographical location and our cold winters. So anyways, when I started digging around a little more, I had always heard that it was revenue neutral. It's not anymore. It goes to general revenue. It goes to wherever government wants to put it, basically. So it doesn't go to the environment necessarily. It basically is just general taxation. So, and we're paying GST on top of that too. I don't know if people have noticed that, which I don't really understand how that works. It seems a little, funny. But anyways, so I'm asking for just the town support basically to get a little bit behind this petition as far as if I could leave sign-up sheets. I have sign-up sheets several places in town, but if I could leave one at the front desk, and maybe if council could endorse us getting a little bit better of a deal for the residents of our Northern Rockies Regional Municipality. I would have included businesses, but I wasn't really thinking along that line at the time. So I was really thinking about the people that are trying to make by in our current economic condition, trying to survive basically. So, and I just found out that there is apparently a climate action tax credit, but I haven't been able to get any reliable information on that. It seems quite a low amount of return, and you basically have to make almost, I think it's under $40,000 a year or something like that. So anyways, I won't comment on that too much because there's too many. When I was looking it up, there wasn't a lot of reliable information about the tax credit. So basically, if you feel that the residents of Northern Rockies should get a better deal from the government, I'd like to hear your thoughts. So.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. White? Councilor Gerwing.
It would be interesting to find out through all the money that we spend. It might be a lot of work, but you know, how much does the carbon tax add to the general expenses of running the municipality? I don't know if there's an easy way to do that, probably not based on Mr. Barry's eyes, but.
No, I'm not quite sure. I mean,
Yeah.
there might be stats and data that the province has from a geographic location. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I mean, we ask, for example, not linked to carbon tax. We ask unemployment rates. We can't get something local here. It's the north of the piece, right?
Mhm.
So, I'm not sure. We know what we pay the carbon tax as an organization, but it's based on our fuels and natural gas and things like
That's
that.
what I meant, like,
Yeah.
that would be.
So we have
would
that
be
information
really
because we have the,
like, that might be
but
good
that's just the
information.
organization. Like I said, that's
Yeah.
and we have that at our fingertips because we have to do a report on an annual.
And the other organization that it affects a lot is the school districts, right? Because when it came in, there wasn't additional funding to offset that, to my information anyways. So that's an additional cost for them as well.
Can I add one thing too?
You go ahead, Mr. White.
Sorry, one thing I did forget to mention was I've noticed some businesses, not necessarily in town, but I've seen some horrendous carbon tax bills, and those are passed on to the customer. There's nothing else. There's no other way you can really do it. If you want to maintain business, you have to put it onto the customers, and unfortunately, those customers are already paying a tax to the government. So it's just one vicious cycle. And it will increase too. I'm not sure if everybody knows, but there's going to be a Clean Fuel Standard Act coming in, and there's going to be the carbon tax per ton is going to keep going up too. So I'm just thinking we should probably get a handle on this from government, get some answers, get something going now before we're doomed. So
Thank you. Mrs. Vandersteen, did you have something you'd like to say? That's all right. Why don't you go to the end of the table and you can be a presenter too.
no.
Thanks, Mayor and Council. I just wanted to add from a business perspective into Mr. White's presentation that this is something the Chamber's been battling since about 2015 with the government. He's absolutely correct that it has changed from revenue neutral, where it went back into other programs and tax credits, into general revenue. And the other thing, maybe as part of Council's considerations, is, although not necessarily addressed directly through Mr. White's petition, is that when we look at some of our businesses, particularly up highways, so Northern Rockies Lodge, not so much Toad River, but Double G, any of those businesses that have to produce all of their own power through their own generation, that is significant dollars attached to those diesel costs. So just wanted to add that to the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Vandersteen. Any other comments? One of the items here about Mr. White wanted the petition left on the counter of the Northern Rockies, and I think we have some protocols around leaving things on the counter of the Northern Rockies. I'm not sure. Mr. Coupe, can you tell us about how we deal with things like that?
So the typical practice, is that only municipal petitions are left out, or petitions that have the endorsement of regional council. So if regional council were to endorse, it would be absolutely able to be left out.
Very well. Can I get a motion then, perhaps, to endorse Mr. White's petition to be sitting on the outside counter of the municipality? Moved by Councillor Andrews, seconded by Councillor Penny. All those in favor? And that motion is carried, and you can put your petition on our counter. Very well. Moving on. Administration report number 10. Grant application to UBCM Community Emergency Preparedness Fund, the Emergency Support Services funding stream. Mrs. LaBelle, did you want to speak to that?
Thank you, Mayor. So this is one of a series of grant applications that will be coming to council over the next couple of months. This one is for the Community Emergency Preparedness Fund for Emergency Support Services Program, and this was formerly titled the Emergency Social Services Program. Last year, this was the funding that we got all of our emergency supplies for our cots and our hygiene items. This year, we're going to be focusing our grant on readying us for electronic registration for if we have to set up an ESS, and again to purchase a few more, couple more cots, pillows, and some personal hygiene supplies, and some training. So this particular grant this year is 100% funded.
Perfect. And does that fit with our strategic priorities?
Yes, it does.
Good. Any discussion? Can I ask for a motion then? Moved by Councillor Soul, seconded by Councillor Gerwing. All those in favor? Carried. Administration report number 11, second quarter grant and aid request. Mr. Barry?
I can speak.
Very
to this,
well.
Mayor, if you'd like. So this is the second quarter grant and aid set of submissions. We received 6, and all 6 are in line with Council's grant and aid policy. So the recommendation is to approve all 6.
Any comments? Very well. I'll ask for a motion then. We approve all 6.
I make the motion.
Moved by Councillor Dolan, seconded by Councillor Andrews. All those in favor? And that motion passes unanimously. Administration report number 12, municipal hall meeting rooms after hour use. Mr. Coupe?
I can speak to this one as well. Thank you, Mayor. So as a very long-running practice in this building, the meeting rooms, both the Raven Room and the Bear Pit, have been available for external group use. It was part of the initial vision of the facility when it was purchased to form kind of a community gathering center. So while over time that use has diminished, it still is being used. One thing we've noticed in the last little bit, and it really came to light with a recent security audit performed, was how leaving the building unsecured with external groups actually does compromise our security. Just the sheer volume of for theft, some of the things that could be stolen, be they big screen TVs with streaming now, council's system here, as well as the audit identified some risks we run with this specific program in terms of our technical security. So we looked at a couple of other options in terms of adding additional security to the building or having staff present during those types of meetings. The costs were a bit significant to do so, and didn't have the same ability to lock down the building as not providing the use. This is in no way the recommendation to cease providing user groups or the rooms for user groups after hours. Is the recommendation. It's not in any way a silver bullet. There's still a number of security fixes that we've looked at with this building and are working towards, but it will assist in making the facility more secure. And giving the existing use, the space is still used by user groups. I think we had 12 last year. We have none booked for this year so far. But if council does wish to continue the practice, there are potentially options for using other facilities. And if council wishes, a separate report could be prepared on these options, if council wishes.
Any comments?
Are these mostly not-for-profit?
They're actually all not for profit. So I think when the building initially opened, it was wide open who could use the rooms. In 99, 2000, council constrained that to nonprofits, and then shortly thereafter expanded it to nonprofits and for-profits if the for-profit could show that there's no other space available for use. But typically I haven't seen any for-profit business use the rooms. And I'll clarify, it's nonprofits and government agencies, but we haven't seen any for-profit in years.
Any other comments? Councillor Roper.
I think it's important as we highlight liabilities and make the changes necessary to improve how the municipality functions, that we don't want to leave the community or our nonprofits behind. So I would support the recommendation with an amendment that we ensure this service will continue to be offered in some way, shape, or form. More than likely at the recreation center, where the operating hours are better suited for meeting space.
Very well. Any other comments?
I had just
Councillor Growing first.
Go ahead.
Okay, I just wanted to bring up that the public library has meeting space available for no charge for not-for-profits, and they're open Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings as well. And also, I use the rec center in the second level of the rec center, just outside the walking track. Like, I've met there for meetings lots of times. That's a free space that's available too. So those are two options that are available.
Councillor Souls.
I just wanted clarification on the 12. You say in the last year there was 12, Ross, and was it 12 after hours or 12 user groups?
12 after
12
hours.
after
uses.
hours requests. Okay.
Any other comments? So I think the safety and security of the information and the property of the municipality is important, and that we should make sure that the access to the town hall is limited after hours. But I agree with Councillor Roper that, you know, we have to make some accommodations for these nonprofit groups, and the rec center does seem to be a natural place to try to accommodate some of these nonprofit groups. So with that motion, Councillor Roper, that you were making with your amendment, I will ask that that's a motion, and I will ask for a seconder. Councillor Growing?
What would that look like? Like, would it be a fee, room rental fee waivers for all not-for-profits, or?
I think that was what Councillor Roper was referring to.
Because that could get pretty big.
Well, we have a lot of the not-for-profits at the college, at least once a day in the evening. So,
in the evening?
Yeah, we don't charge them.
So the college has space available too.
Yeah.
Mr. Barry and then Mr. Councillor Roper.
So the intent tonight was to get some direction from council around the town hall piece. What we can do is, council wishes, is bring a report back with some options and some, because it'd be good to get some policy guidance in terms of what we do and what we don't do, or what we allow and don't allow, to put some boundaries around it. In the meantime, as Ross had said, there is nothing booked currently. I think if something was booked for next week or the next couple of weeks, we wouldn't necessarily say no, or we'd look at some different options or avenues. So the intent tonight was to get some guidance in terms of for the facility here, and that's the reason why we actually talked about changing having the recommendation with the rec facility, but we didn't know what that looked like. So it's more of a stepped approach. Was to look after this facility and then bring something back for council. If you wish, if there's a desire to continue on, which we thought there would be, then we can bring something back with certain options, get some and including some potential policy options for council, so we can get some guidance and build some framework around it if council wishes.
Very well. There's a motion, Councillor Roper's motion then, that and we can expand that administration brings back a report to us about some options, but the general idea is that the town hall will not be available for meetings after hours, and that we will look at some options at the rec center for these nonprofits that have been displaced.
Absolutely, yeah. So I would make the motion that we go with the recommendation and as well prepare a report for other options, so that we're not reducing those community services.
Very well. And Councillor Andrews, you're comfortable with seconding that motion? Very well. All those in favor? And that motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Admin report number 13, 2020 local government intern. Mrs. McIver.
Thank you, Mayor. So the report in front of you basically is looking for some support to apply to the Northern Development Initiative Trust local government intern program again for 2020. So we were successful in our 2019 application, and we posted a local government intern for the past, I guess it's 9 months or so now. That was not me.
Two of you. Hey, Boy Scout.
Is that what I sound? Is that what I sound like? Oh, no. I'm ready to scream.
That's okay. It's a work in progress. And so NDIT hosts us as an annual program, and we were actually invited to apply for this year. They had a lack of applications from the Northeast, so there was some initial discussion with council about whether to go ahead and do that, and we've actually been successful in our application. So if council opts to support it, then off we go, and if not, then we would just withdraw our application.
Very well. Any comments? Can I ask for a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Councillor Dolan. Okay. The motion is to seek a grant from NDIT for an intern. Seconder, please. Seconded by Councillor Souls. All those in favor? And that motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Administration report number 14. Charge North Initiative. Ms. Vanderstein, would you like to speak to this?
Sure. So EV charging stations has been something that has been coming up over the last number of years through conversations, and the Clean BC program has highlighted it and has some pretty significant goals for any vehicles that are going to be sold in BC. So it's a movement where I think the world is going to, and we have been offered an opportunity to potentially work with a group on adding charging stations to northern BC. So we wanted to just bring that to council's attention and see if there was any interest. There would be a little bit more work to go into looking at locations that might work, that would be most feasible for if somebody has to charge for a couple hours, say 4 to 6 hours, we would want it to be somewhere where people could go out and shop or go to a restaurant. Or so there's pieces like that, but we didn't want to get too into the weeds until we saw what you guys thought.
Very well. Any comments? Councillor Souls.
Given where we're located and so on, I think that the issue of charging electric vehicles is hard to foresee just on its own merit by itself. We have to know where other charging stations are going to be in relation to where we live in order to determine whether or not they're beneficial. But I know that I've been researching the numbers on travel distances and so on, and I think that in the summertime, which is probably when we have our most interest in traveling the highway, then you can see that there are a number of vehicles now that can travel from as far away as Fort St. John and actually would make it here, or most of them would make. Some of them would make it here, might be the best way to say it. And I look at, are we the end of the line then? Once you start looking at that and you start looking north of us, it becomes a much longer stretch, and none of the vehicles that I've researched would actually drive from here to Watson Lake, even if it's in the summertime. And so I know that just we should, when we're looking at it, have that in mind, that in order to just jump on the bandwagon just to say we have a charging station is not enough. That's not good enough. We either go farther or not at all.
Councillor Gerling.
Okay, so as I understand it, if we were to commit to this project, then we would be obliged to pay for the charging costs. So we would pay for the electricity.
Correct.
Correct. So I mean, I think it's a great idea to have a charging station. I'm not too sure that I think it's a great idea that we should be paying for the charging of it, the electricity. I'm wondering if we can continue this, look for other grant opportunities. I think there'll be more coming down the pipe so that we could get the, I guess you'd call it hardware, installed. And it says in this report too that there is, the hardware has the ability to be metered, but just not in conjunction with this grant program. So there is that ability out there. They can be metered.
Ms. Vanderstein.
Yeah, so some places have put a metered system, so it's kind of like you pay for your parking. The cost is pretty minimal. I think a full charge of a vehicle was under $5 when we did the basic research.
Yeah, and it said that like on the average Nissan Leaf, it was only like 50 cents for 1 hour, but it takes 7 hours because we wouldn't be getting the superchargers.
4 to
We'd
6
be-
typically, yeah.
Yeah, my research said 7, but yeah, irregardless. So yeah, it is minimal, but you know, as we grow and as it gets bigger, if we've committed to a project where we are agreeing to pay for the electricity, then I just think that I would like to investigate other opportunities.
Councillor Penny.
Well, I'd just like to add a little bit of information. Councillor Souls had looked up there about what vehicles, how far they can make it under charge. So I've had 3 different tourists come through now with Tesla, several different models of Tesla, and they've been able to make it from Watson Lake to here without issue, but not enough charge to get any further. And in speaking with those 3 individuals and then doing some research on my own, there's quite a few websites out there now that they're actually using charging stations to figure out the routes that they're going to travel. And now that we figure, I think it's 20,000 electric vehicles in BC right now, taking up about 5%, I think is what I read there, 5% of total new car sales per year. So it's going to be continuing to gain. And we are at the end of the road right now. So there is charging stations in Fort St. John, Watson Lake, and Whitehorse that they can make it through. So right now the restriction to get them up the Alaska Highway is us. And I mean, if we were looking at just look at the report, would this just be one charging station?
Probably, but
For now with this,
in theory, you guys could
yeah.
say that you wanted to look into 2 through the program. I'm
So
not
would you be
sure if
looking
they have
at,
a cap.
I mean, the possible cost, looking at the average of a Nissan Leaf, if we were to have a vehicle plugged in 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for a whole year, it'd be about $4,300 to the municipality, which, yes, I know it's still $4,300, but I think the potential for revenue to the town with visitors coming through, I think we'd make that back.
Councillor Souls.
How do you balance, like, I was just thinking of buying a Tesla myself now, because I found out the municipality would pay for its charging, and I thought that would be, so a bunch of, you could actually see with a single charging unit, and if it takes 6 or 7 hours to charge one up, and let's say a nice long weekend, well, there's 3 people that want to come up, or 4 that want to come up and work their way through. How do you deal with issues of 2 or 3 electric cars showing up at once? And I think you have input on that.
Councillor Penny.
I believe the empty hotel rooms, that's how we deal with that. That's, my idea is just to get them to come here, and to be honest, the longer they have to stay to charge, the better it is for the municipality.
Ms. Vandersteen, a charging station, does that mean it can only charge one vehicle at a time, or is a charging station able to accommodate several vehicles at one time?
Typically, they're put in between 2 stalls, but I'm not sure if they can actually charge 2 at once, or if it just allows 2 parking spots.
Very well, and I guess what we are asking for, what administration is asking for here is simply a report.
Yeah, so
that the staff be directed to provide a report on joining the Charge North project. Councillor Andrews.
So is this something that municipalities typically do? Because I've seen all the advertisements, how Petrocan's changing and putting in charge stations, so you can run, the whole highway, across Canada, the Trans-Can Highway, going to these Petro-Canada stations. Like, to me, it seems more like a private industry than a municipal event. I could be wrong. Maybe this is the direction BC plans on going, but I don't see why the municipality should be paying money to fill up somebody else's car. That's the equivalent that I'm looking at.
Councillor Penny.
So exactly what Councillor Souls just said. It's to fill hotels and restaurants currently, but what to actually get the proper infrastructure in for electric vehicles is to get to the point like they are in Vancouver, where you have supercharge stations that they can actually charge a vehicle in 15 to 20 minutes. That's the only way that these vehicles are really going to be a viable transportation option, right? Is to get to the point that they can fill up. So these ones that are all the ones I've seen in municipalities so far that municipalities are providing, like at Fort St. John, Watson Lake, and Whitehorse, they're all these slow chargers. So it's not really, if Councillor Souls decided to buy a Tesla because we're going to pick up the tab, he's only going to be able to drive that vehicle for, 1 day, and then it's going to have to sit for a day. So we wouldn't really cost us that much. So the convenience factor is not there. It's more right now to put ourselves on the map, and people that are traveling, then they can make their stay to be in Fort Nelson or in Northern Rockies.
Mr. Barry.
And just to answer your question too, Councillor Andrews, it's a bit of a mix and mash between the different municipalities out there. So some will run like a level two charger. Some will actually have level 3, combination of metered ones or not. So some will start off with non-metered chargers and have it as a kind of a incentive for people to purchase, and then they'll transition into a metered approach. What's happened in BC is currently BC Hydro and Ministry of Transportation are looking at bringing those superchargers or those level 3 chargers and putting them in place. They're just not to us yet, of course. So there's a good chance we will see those down the road, but they're just not there yet. So this is why I think this Charge BC is looking at kind of doing a little bit of infill to allow to fill in some of those blanks in the meantime.
I guess one of my concerns is that if you put it on the map that we have a charging station here and it's taking 6 hours or 7 hours to charge a vehicle, and we only have one, what happens if 8 vehicles show up? Well, I guess you fill the hotels, but you're going to have a bunch of angry people that can't charge their vehicles. But anyway, we are asking for a motion to direct staff to bring us a report, and I will ask for that motion.
Can I add to that?
Councillor Gerwin, go ahead.
So the recommendation is that staff be directed to provide a report on the NRM joining the Charge North project. Can we add and investigate other opportunities? So it's not just looking at this project, because I think that there are other opportunities, or could be other opportunities out there.
So that would be a motion, Councillor Gerwin?
Yes.
And do I have a seconder for Councillor Gerwin's motion? Seconded by Councillor Andrews. All those in favor? And the motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Vandersteen. Northern Rockies Region Municipality Regional Council Procedure Amendment Bylaw. Mr. Coupé.
So bylaw 177 was presented for first 3 readings at the last meeting. Just as a refresher, this is the bylaw that will change the procedure bylaw to allow for a public comment portion near the beginning of the meeting, as well as clean up a couple of the older headings. It's presented to you tonight for adoption.
Are there any comments? Very well, I'll ask for a motion then to adopt that. Moved by Councillor Dolan, seconded by Councillor Roper. All those in favor? Motion is carried unanimously. This was 177. Okay, now we're moving on to zoning amendment. Mr. Roy, Northern Rockies Region Municipality Zoning Amendment Vehicle Storage Regulation Bylaw number 178, 2020 for third and adoption.
I guess I'll turn the floor to council if they have any further questions on the bylaw.
Councillors, do you have any questions, Mr. Roy? Very well, then I will ask for a motion. Councillor Souls. Moved by Councillor Souls, seconded by Councillor Andrews. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Mr. Andrews, would you go out and get Mr. Penny for me, please?
Yeah, I just subliminally.
Thank you very much. You're very good at that. Very well. Moving on. Correspondence, letter to Mark Zacharias, Deputy Minister, Minister of the Environment and Climate Change Strategy. Mr. Coupe, did you want to speak to that letter?
I believe we're just looking for to be received for information.
Very well. BC Government News. Where am I? Organic waste in landfills, and we'll receive that for information as well. Information package, council information package, January 29th, 2020, and council information package, February 5th, 2020, received for information. New business reports, addition by mayor, councilors, and CAO. Mr. Barry, North BC Tourism Association.
Yeah, so Clint Fraser, the CEO with the Northern BC Tourism Association, is in town on March 30th and 31st. We sent an email to council, I believe last week sometime. So he's available on March 30th at 5:30 or noon on the 31st if council would like to meet with him while he's in town.
Very well.
Is there a preference? I think we just send an email out with the dates, and we received, I think, 3 responses from council. So
very well. Standing items for discussion. Councilors' reports. Any councilors' reports?
Can I just speak to
Sure.
that last
Go ahead.
part there? I think it would be great to get an update from Mr. Fraser while he's in town.
Yes. I think
Tuesdays aren't the greatest, but I should be able to make it work.
very well. If I'm available, I will certainly do that as well.
So are you suggesting March 31st at noon? Is that the time? Or would you rather March 30th in the evening? Is there a preference for council? Because Tuesdays don't work for you, Councilor Andrews. Okay. So we're just trying to line this up with Clint now. So if I could just ask council to just take a look and maybe send me an email tomorrow just to confirm if you can make it or what works better for you, and we can confirm something up with Clint if that works. Yes, yeah. If you already respond to email, I'll do it again. Yeah, that's correct.
Very well. Any council reports? Councilor Andrews.
So I went down to the open house for North River Midstream down in Fort St. John. I stuck around for, I think, probably 3 times as long as most other people did because it was more of an open house meet and greet. But I was able to talk with quite a few people: CEO, Deputy CEO, and Vice President and Senior VP with North River. Tamara Troll, I think is how you pronounce her last name. She's General Counsel and Senior VP. She's never been to Fort Nelson, and I mentioned the festival. She was super interested in bringing a bunch of their senior members up for it, so I got her in contact with Councilor Penny.
Excellent.
And then just another thing that I noted that just Lori Ackerman was there, and she mentioned that they've got a program where they take the food from that isn't being used, like the pre-packed lunches and stuff in camps, and they're meeting with Northern Health to see about using that in the hospitals and to other places, people around town that would need it. I thought that might be something neat that we could potentially look into, see how they worked, and then just kind of rob their program. It would be kind of cool.
Excellent. Very well. Well, since you did such an excellent job on the North River meeting, I won't bother joining in for mine. But we did meet with Mayor Ackerman, and we did meet with people of Midstream and had a I think it was an educational time listening to them, and they seem to be pretty upbeat about their new acquisition. Any other council reports? Councilor Roper.
I recently attended the Connectivity Strategy Visioning and Missioning exercise held this last Wednesday in the Bear Pit. It was facilitated by Carrie Ann Thomas with 10X Engineering. There was an incredible amount of experience in the room, and the session I found was highly productive. Participants captured the unique challenges that residents and businesses face with our current connection services and infrastructure. It's clear to me that many of Council's priorities identified in our strategic plan are greatly impacted by the lack of equitable connection services, and I look forward to seeing what transpires with this important endeavor. I also want to give residents a reminder that they have until Friday to complete the survey for the regional connectivity strategy. It only takes 10 minutes to complete the survey. I highly recommend that you take a look at your most recent internet bill, head over to the Northern Rockies website, and make sure that your voice is heard. And just an update, as of 4 p.m. today, we've had 460 residential and 34 businesses or nonprofit responses. So the response has been high. I think we can get that higher.
Excellent, Councillor Roper. Councillor Gerwing.
Yeah. So I was away most of last week. January 28th, I attended the Linked Sector Advisory Committee on Rural Health in Vancouver, and it was hosted by BC Rural Health Centre, the BC Rural Centre, Institute for Health Systems Transformation and Sustainability. There were 14 people in attendance and 2 attending virtually. Included representation from physicians, industry, rural and remote communities, economic development sector, not-for-profits, and technologists. Topics discussed were social determinants of rural residents' health and well-being, patient transportation, patient bill of rights, where patients, communities, and governments would know what services they can expect from health authorities. Currently, we don't have one. Virtual care, enormous amount of work is being done, and there's been a recent creation of the BC Centre of Excellence for Virtual Care, so that's something brand new. We talked about team-based care and culturally based care. Our next meeting is going to be held in March, but we'll be doing it completely virtually. And then I flew that night to Prince George, and I went to the Resource Forum. And it began with a resource minister's breakfast that included Doug Donaldson, Scott Fraser, George Heyman, and Bruce Ralston. The official conference opening saw Bob Zimmer, Shirley Bond, Lynn Hall, and Chief Terry TG. The theme of all their talks were develop resources responsibly and sustainably, connecting Canada's clean energy to the world. Find a way to get to yes. Heard that for the whole 2 days. Find a way to get to yes. And Bill 41 addressing UNDRIP. The opening address was delivered by Afonso Bazan, who's the GM of Rio Tinto, BC. And over the next 2 days, we had 6 panels that included a collective vision for BC's mining sector, cross-sector CEO outlooks, prosperity through partnerships, global leadership in sustainable forest management, fresh perspectives from tomorrow's leaders, and tapping BC's potential as an energy leader. And the panel discussions were very varied, and I have detailed notes if anybody's interested, like 8 pages. But I just wanted to say the emerging themes included support of Bill 41, and it should be viewed as an opportunity, not as a threat. Innovation, simplifying the regulation process, and also I heard this time and time again is that we do resource development better than a lot of places, so let's celebrate and take pride in BC and Canada made, and that wood is part of the climate solution. I also attended the truck rally, and then we had lunch with the Premier, and he spoke on, not privately, 1,100 of us.
1,100 of his close friends, eh?
Just to briefly go over the high points of his talk, he talked about LNG and the advantages it affords to the province, the challenges with the pipeline controversy, Nathan Cullen appointment, and he reiterated many times throughout his address that minds will not be changed. Different views are a challenge. We need to make sure services are available to residents and communities. So I thought that was interesting. I'll try to hold them more accountable to that. The world is a different place, and we need to look forward to a different way to operate. These are his words. He spoke on adding value to our resources. Economic bright spots he highlighted as technology and mining, and had said a couple times that BC is a mining province. Opportunities to be low carbon economy can be sourced in BC, and building on relationships with Indigenous people. And as commodity prices fluctuate, the legacy will be in how we manage our relationship with Indigenous people. Talked about the low carbon economy. The mining sector has led the way, and along with LNG and some forestry companies. Mining projects, regulatory regime needs to move projects forward in a timely manner. So you're kind of getting the gist. He spoke a lot about mining. He spoke briefly about guide, outfitters, agricultural, food security, produce locally, we can count on feeding ourselves, and forestry shift in how we use our forest products. There are 66 significant buildings in London, England, that were built using large lumber sourced from other places, not BC. But this is something that BC can supply. So the new forest economy is possible. LNG, mining, forestry has been key to our past and will be in our future. And then after the resource forum was done, I had 2 days for the NCLGA board meeting, and just a brief outline of what we did. Just a reminder that the resolutions are due March 13th. If anybody's interested in submitting any, preparations are well in hand for the AGM, which is taking place May 13th to the 15th, City of Prince George. Registration is open, so we should talk about who's going. And we'll continue to be involved in the Solid Waste Management Forum that will take place June 16 and 17 in Prince George. And the board agreed to set up a task force to examine health services in the north. Participation includes representation from across the region, and I am sitting on that task force.
Excellent. Okay. I also attended the resource forum. I heard what Councillor Gerwing has just told us from the Premier. I agree exactly with what Councillor Gerwing characterized it as. There seemed to be an awfully large push for value added in the forest industry, where we don't work on large volumes of fiber being put into the market, but by more expensive products being put into the market, and hence value added. I spoke to Ferris. I introduced the people at Ferris to our MP, Mr. Zimmer, and we spoke of natural gas, getting Yukon off diesel for generating electricity and getting them onto natural gas, which is a cleaner source. And we spoke a great deal about the importance of natural gas, getting China and India off of coal. I attended the Resource Municipalities Coalition meet and greet, where several mayors, MPs, MLAs from across the region met and spoke of the importance of the Resource Municipalities Coalition to give us really a voice in resource development in British Columbia and getting our goods to market. I went to Nanaimo. I presented on a panel to foresters about our community forest, about our forest initiatives here in Fort Nelson. It was generally very well received. I met an awful lot of people who knew our staff that had worked on community forests, Mr. Toft, Mr. Stevenson, Mr. Gilbert. So all in all, that was it was a great success. Are there any other reports? Very well. I'm going to ask for a motion then to adjourn the regional council meeting. Moved by council.
Sorry.
I'm sorry?
Sorry, we do.
Did I miss one?
I know, just there's some, any public news.
Oh, I'm sorry. Questions from the public. Budget questions, priority set by council. Very well. Now I will ask for an adjournment. Moved by Councillor Roper, seconded by Councillor Dolan. All those in favor? And we are adjourned.
Given we didn't get as far as I'd hoped tonight, so we'll probably still talk with Jamal Mayor with,
Sure.
in regards to Thursday, so unless there's a. Yeah, okay, there's five, oh, you can at 5?
Well, I can rearrange, but I just
Okay.
didn't realize we were.
Yeah, we have a noon one and a 5.
So we'll plan for